Right, there we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I feel like that might have missed the start of the intro, but it'll do. Today, I'm joined here by James. James, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. How are you?
And we will be joined by Paul sooner rather than later, hopefully. So, what we're going on about today is we're going to start with Dele Alli. It's been a bit of a controversial signing since January. I think Everton fans expected a lot better from him, to be honest, with the player that he's shown he can be at times at Spurs. Just to keep it simple for now, James, is how do you think Dele Alli's been so far, and do you expect better from him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's not started yet. He's not done anything of any note really. Whilst he's obviously been here for a couple of months, it still feels really early in his Everton career, and I don't know, just to feel like he's not really had a chance yet. I mean, he's come off the bench in all his appearances. He's been unused sub many times as well. I don't know if it feels like it's a bit strange that he's not only not used him at all, but the fact that even when Donny van der Beek's not played, there's a lot of debate whether those two could play in the same team. Even when Van der Beek's not played, Dele Alli still hasn't been given a chance. I'm a little bit surprised at how sparsely he's used him, but hopefully he can come to the fore of the next sort of 10 games or whatever, because we need someone to step up. He's played, I think, 180 minutes, 170 minutes, something like that. So I don't think we can expect too much from him just yet. He needs to get a run of starts, really, I think, and then we can really start to see what kind of player we've got.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it difficult, really, isn't it? Is we can't really form an opinion, and I've even seen some fans. I'm not going to take Twitter by gospel. If you watch me on here, I don't take anything from Twitter, really. But a certain brand of the fan base saying that he's flopped already, which I don't understand. Considering if we were to sell him this summer for 10 pence, we'd have made a profit on him. So I think it's quite a confusing situation. But I do think you can't really judge someone when they haven't been given a run of starts, and I do think. Maybe Frank looks at it and goes, we need someone who can play that final ball and have that killer instinct in the final third. So that's hopefully where someone like Dele Alli would come in.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I think the problem is obviously because he's been so maligned at Tottenham, and I just think he stayed at Tottenham way too long. He should have gone a lot earlier than he did. I think Roy Keane got it spot on when he spoke about him, just said he'd sort of lost the eye of the tiger. He kind of lost it at Spurs, and everyone was trying to make it a thing. Everyone was trying to make it work for him there. Pochettino kept trying. Mourinho tried. Ryan Mason tried. Nuno tried. And Conte obviously tried as well right at the start of his reign. And I think everyone just kind of saw that it wasn't going to work for him anymore. He was done for, and that's absolutely fine. I think you see with players up and down the country and in all leagues, all divisions, just they reached the end of the road, and he reached the end of the road with Tottenham, I think. And I don't think he's been helped by the fact that this sort of number 10 role has evolved massively now. Much like being a striker, it's not enough to sort of be creative. You've got to run, you've got to put in the hard yard, and that's why I think the likes of Isco, James Rodriguez, Coutinho, up until he went to Villa, they all kind of fell off the face of the earth and flopped it at their respective sides, and ended up with the likes of like teams that go to Villa. James came towards Isco, still kind of rotting away around Madrid, and that's why the likes of De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva and players like that. That's why they're so good, to put it bluntly, is that because they can do the hard yards, they can do the running, they can go box to box. Managers don't want number 10 anymore. You see, Klopp again was very happy to let Coutinho go, for example, I think, and he made the team 10 times better. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because I just think players in that position, they've got to evolve. They're going to be good enough. And you've seen what Coutinho can do at Villa now. He's in a good system with a good manager, and that's just what I hope Dele Alli can end up doing, because when he's come on, we've been chasing games and he's not added anything to us as of yet. So I think he's got to evolve as a player. I think that's where he needs to stop looking elsewhere and needs to look at himself. And obviously, hopefully, he gets the chance to do that with us.
Yeah, do you think someone like Dele Alli may be more suited to, instead of coming off the bench to get us into games while we're behind, he should be the sort of player we should be starting to, let us have a foothold on the game, instead of what seems to be the strategy under Frank is weirdly we seem to just sit there for as long as possible, and then when we concede, the players seem to really go for it.
Well, I think it's hard to come on in that position and try and influence game. And Ross Barkley he didn't come off the bench much for us, but he was a terrible sub whenever he came on, because he just couldn't get to pace of the game. Players in that position, I think they need to dictate it really, and I say he's just got to evolve. He's going to come off the bench. He's got to do more than what he's done. Obviously, it's not helped that when he's come on, he came against Wolves and we were really poor. We quickly went down a man as well. Came on against Newcastle, we were playing really badly. Then he came in against Leeds, we were playing well. It was flow, and he should have got a really good assist, but once for a great save, he didn't. I'd sort of just say that, yeah, he needs to start more games, and that's the way he's going to influence matches. And I think Lampard's got to change something, obviously, because he's not getting enough points, not getting enough wins, and yeah, he's got the players at his disposal to change. He wants to change the system, the formation, the way we're going to play football. Unlike other teams down there, we have got more players, we have got more options. And same with someone like Townsend going off injured, you may think he doesn't want to go too heavy out wide or anything like that. I'm not too sure, but I would really like to see something from Dele Alli, because we need someone with a bit of spark and someone just to kind of drag us away from this. And he's got the talent. It's just whether he's suited for us right now.
Yeah, I think that's the issue here. And Owen puts here, I'll get it up here so it shows. If it comes down to the summer, would you sell? Personally, I think it all hinders on survival, doesn't it, really? I think if we survive, what is the point in selling him? Because what is it? Is it 12 million we pay if he plays 20 games?
I think it was 10 million if he played 20 games. So,
Yes, but 10 million nowadays is not for nothing. For an English player who's still quite young as well. The thing is with Dele, is all Dele has to do is, for example, 1920, he got 8 goals and 4 assists. Dele recreates that next season, it instantly puts him to about 15, 20 million, because that's what Transfermarkt says Damari Gray's worth. And he's probably had a similar impact. So I think it's the sort of thing is, it'd be absolutely mental to sell him if we were still in the Premier League. I think if we go down, then it's a situation where we might have to get rid of, depending on the wages he's earning.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that if he was to go in the summer, well, I think what I would say is if he plays well from now to the end of the season, we probably stay up, because we then have a player who's rejuvenating. We'd have a big spark where teams down there are not going to get that spark from a player. The clubs who are down there haven't signed players in January who are yet to sort of kick on in the same way we have in terms of obviously Dele. So I think if he plays well, we probably will stay up, and if he were to get those numbers and have other clubs sniffing around him, then it means he'd probably have been fine. Obviously, if we were to go down, which would obviously be unthinkable, he'd be one of many players who I'm sure would move on. But he's got to be careful, because obviously, it's enter a tailspin very quickly as a footballer. And when you leave one club and you go to another one and you don't perform there, you're quickly onto 3 clubs in a year, 18 months. And it's really hard to get out of that. We've seen so many players, their careers have gone down the pan, and to worry for Dele Alli because he peaked so young, and whilst he had that experience of playing in the lower leagues and playing well there, he's come up. He's seen really burned out at Tottenham, and obviously he's got to try and arrest the slide a little bit. So I'd say if he plays well, I think we'll be absolutely fine. I think we'd be okay come the end of the season, then we can look at it. But I think if he doesn't play well and we do stay up, then I don't think anyone would pay any money for him. In truth, I think we'd probably just say we tried for 6 months and it's not worked. Happy to move him on, because obviously he is costing us wages. Obviously, the best case scenario is that he plays well, we stay up, and we can really rebuild. Because, as I say, I think he's 25 still. He's really young for a footballer these days. I think footballers are going to start to really hit the prime around 25, 26 now, whereas I think a few years ago people were probably expecting younger players who were 23, 24 to be at their best. I think there's still plenty of time for Dele Alli. Just it comes down to how much he wants it and how much Lampard gives him a chance to do it, I think.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with Dele is one problem maybe is that Frank seems to want to stick with either this awful 3/5 at the back, which I just don't think works. I just don't think we have the personnel for it. And well, Paul's here, so I'll quickly add Paul now, and then I'll keep going on to what I was saying. You all right, Paul?
Yeah, I'm okay, mate.
Right.
Sunday, isn't it? We haven't played this weekend, so no one's got any reason to be in a bad mood. How are you, Tim?
Yeah, we're good, mate. So
yeah, good, very good.
So back
Can
into
you hear
what
me?
I was saying. Yeah, we can hear you fine. So it's just this sort of thing where Dele, I think the one thing he gets slandered for a bit is, well, not slandered because I couldn't think of the word, so that was the first one that popped into my head. But this sort of trail against him is that he doesn't work hard defensively, and I think the issue is he does get caught ball watching quite a lot. I think. Well, quite a lot. In the limited time he's got caught ball watching more than he should get caught ball watching. Do you think maybe it is a thing where Frank is trying to sort of nestle him into the system almost, maybe, to the point where, so when he comes onto the pitch, he is constantly running and not being caught out of position?
I think when he's coming on, he should have fresh legs. He should be showing that side of his game now. I was talking about where these attack midfielders need to become more of an 8 and need to run a bit more and do both sides of the game more than they have done. It's sink or swim, really. Either he goes further up the pitch, plays out as like a forward or as a second striker, or he dips into that midfield role. It's gonna be interesting to see what he does, because at the minute he's in a bit of an abyss. But yeah, I think he is just trying to, a bit like Patterson and Mykolenko. Hopefully, he is just trying to bed them in a little bit. But we should never have signed players who needed bedding in. That's for certain. So I hope that's what it is. But only time will tell.
So, well, just to catch you up, Paul, I think I saw you in the comments earlier. What do you think of? Oh, he's gone again. Oh, he's having a nightmare. Right. Well, yeah, we'll just that's just stumped me off guard because I was going to ask him a question. So yeah, I think it's been quite difficult for Dele so far. I think it's an issue. It's a player issue, and it's also, I like Frank, but it probably is a managerial issue at the same time as well. I think it's Frank still sort of trying to find his ideal system with the talent he's got. And maybe his ideal system actually doesn't fit the way Dele Alli plays originally, like he may have thought. So now it's trying to, nurture him into that system. And it's almost the idea of you've seen a shiny jewel, but you've just, bought a jewel that, to put it simply, doesn't fit the crown you're wearing.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. And that would concern me a little bit, because obviously he signed him. This is fully Lampard's player, it seems. And I think we have brokered a good deal in terms of he's going to have to play 20 games before we pay anything for him. And obviously, if it does go really poorly, we can shift him in the summer. I'm sure someone would take him somewhere. So I think if he can't fit him in, then that will be a failure on the manager's part, because he signed him. He should know what he was getting, and he should have spoken to enough people to know what he's like. And I'm sure he would have spoken to Mourinho about him, for example. I'm sure he would have given him some advice on the Dele that is of today, because this Dele Alli is very different to the Dele Alli of 16, 17, I think was the real season he burst onto the scene. But yeah, I just think he needs to really start putting him in from the start of games, seeing what he's all about, because it's really difficult to come on as a cameo and try and influence a team that are right down there. And I hope that the players who are still at Finch Farm, like Dele, like Mykolenko, these sort of players are going to get more minutes going into the second half of this sort of big period for Lampard and the team.
Yeah, well, I think you look at it and you just think, I think it is the idea where I think Frank just has to get a specific system down, and I just don't think it is this three at the back, because I just don't think Everton have the personnel. I think maybe if we had the personnel, it would work, but we don't outright. We don't. If Frank wants to play at the three at the back, that's something he'd have to do next season, in my opinion. I don't think there's any point bedding it in now when we don't really have anyone who can fit it. Maybe I think Gordon. But I think Gordon's hard work helps him fit into every system, really. And I think Godfrey can work in a back three, but I think he's probably preferred in a back four. So I don't know. What do you think? Frank just has to stick with one thing, and then that will see us get the best out of players like Dele, Mykolenko, and someone we'll get onto later in Nathan Patterson?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, someone who I don't normally agree with, Paul Merson kind of said it about Man United in terms of you play five defenders like they did against Liverpool, and they got spanked 5-0. They played five at the back there, and that wasn't because he'd set up over the summer to play that way and sign players to play that way. He just put five defenders on the pitch because he thought it would make them defensively solid. And it doesn't. It's more about system now. And I just think if you're going to play five defenders, as you said, you've got to have five defenders who can play that role. You've got to have good wing backs who are up and down. You've got the attacking ability of a wide player or a winger. You've got the defensive ability of a full back. You need centre backs who are quick, who are good in the box. Same things you need for a back four. You need ball playing centre halves, and then you need ball playing centre midfield players. And we just don't have those. Certainly those last two, we haven't got enough. And I can't think of any of our defenders who I would still play in a back three in truth. So, as you say, I think he needs to pick what he wants to do and either stick with it or go with something else, because we can't keep chopping and changing. It's not going to work. And I think we're going to feel the effects of that even more than we already are. And it's a shame, because obviously it looks like Mykolenko is really struggling. Patterson the same. He's having to play Colby. He's having to play Kenny. And he's just got to bite the bullet on certainly the three players who signed, because I think they'd all probably improve us. So we'll have to see what he does.
Yeah, I think the one thing I said, and it kind of links more to Mykolenko than all the players, is that there is a huge difference between wing back and full back in how they play. Mykolenko's used to playing in this back four, and I can't imagine Dynamo Kiev, especially in the Champions League, were a very possession-heavy side. He was a real Rafa Benitez signing in that he's a left-back who is quite solid defensively. But then, his youth would be used an advantage to improve his game going forward. But it's just, I think the best I've seen under us is when we're playing free midfield, 4-3-3, because the bodies help us from, even if the players aren't as good as the other ones. You look at, I'm trying to think, Leeds, I think we did it, was 4-3-3, and I think 4-3-3 we played against someone else, but I feel like it was a system-changing game. But I think it's just when we've got three bodies in midfield, I feel like we perform so much better in a sense. And I feel like that would then help someone like Dele Alli because, with Decore and Alan anyway, obviously we'll be missing Alan for West Ham. They can offer us cover guys almost, where it allows one of the midfielders to go forward a bit more. Usually, that switched between when it was free between Van der Beek and Decore, they'd switch between which one of them goes forward. I think we will have Van der Beek back. I don't think anything's up with him, is there? He was just cup tied.
You think he was injured before after the Newcastle game? I think he said he should be back. And obviously, I don't believe he's in the Holland squad, so I'm sure he'll be fine for the next game.
So it's a thing where Decore, Van der Beek, and then someone like Dele Alli, it could work. And because to be fair to Dele, he's shown that he can work hard. I think it's just getting him consistently to work hard. And if that's a thing where he can only play 60, 70 minutes for the first few games and then you have to replace him, then that's how it works. But I just think you can't. I think talent-wise, he is the sort of player who is definitely good enough to almost single-handedly keep us up.
Yeah, he's got the talent and he's got goals in him. But as we said, and as I remember saying on transfer deadline day when I was on here talking about Delhi, for example, it is such a risk, and obviously if it doesn't pay off, then it is going to look really, really silly. And if it does work, it's going to be a bit of a master stroke and look like Lampard's really, got into a player who a few managers failed with. But if more experienced managers have failed before Lampard, it does worry a little bit, to be fair. So, I think what you're saying about the balance midfield is right, though. I think that's something that we've missed massively. Balance all over the side, whether it comes from the centre backs not being good enough or right-footed left backs or whatever it might be. Our balance has just stunk for the large majority of the season. And when we played against Newcastle, we had Townsend on the left, and it's just such a horrendous sight because our squad in our first 11 has lacked so much balance. I think it's a well-known football fact that 4-3-3 covers the pitch best, and it covers each area of the field, and obviously depends on what your opposition are playing. But I think that will be the best system going forward. And I'd like it to be brave. I want to play 4-3-3. I want to play three midfield, three up front, and just try and get a set up back four because we're desperate for it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think we do our best work in almost. It's not the final third, but it's the area between the final third and the midfield. We've shown it in multiple times under Frank. We can win the ball there, and we can be quite comfortable in winning the ball there. But if we have two in midfield, Decore flies forward and tackles someone, and then he gets tackled, or no, Decore is 10, 15 yards out of position. What are we going to do now? Then there's one man to cover 4 or 5 overlapping him. And I think that is the problem. I think the entire problem with the Frank hiring in general was, I did say it's going to be similar to an Eddie Howe at Newcastle, where we should have sacked Rafa sooner and then given Frank, some of December, early January to then bed in his signings. And, if we did do that, Luca Digne would probably still be an Everton player. But, we don't have that now. And now we are in a real relegation scrap. And don't get me wrong, yeah, we've got 3 points over Watford and games in hand. But we've still got some really difficult fixtures. We've still got Liverpool. We've still got Chelsea. We've still got Man United again, I believe. We've got Arsenal last day of the season away. We've got West Ham up next. Leicester, we've got real difficult fixtures. And I'm not going to say I'm massively worried about relegation. I am worried and it's in the back of my mind. But I'm not sat here thinking we're down, we're done, like some Everton fans are. But it is a thing where Frank has to find something and he needs to find it really soon, or else, we could be watching the club get relegated for the first time since the 50s, I believe.
Yeah, massively. And I'll say this break's coming at a good time in terms of getting players back. And I really do hope he's going to settle on something, because even if it is 5 defenders, which I don't like. I don't think we've got the players for it. If he sticks with that and settles with that over 3 or 4 games, the team it would improve simply. And whether that would be too big a risk, I don't know. But it's going to come down to what he thinks is best, and whatever he thinks best, just stick with it. He's got to be brave. At the end of the day, it was a brave appointment. He's got to be a brave manager now and say we're going to play either this way or this way. And whilst I wouldn't agree with it, whilst I wouldn't like it, whilst I certainly wouldn't like it going into next season, whichever formation he picks, he's got to stick to. Generally speaking, obviously there'll be some personnel where you are going to need to change it because you've got players out or your opposition are going to exploit one formation or the other or whatever it might be. But I do think in an ideal world, if you're going to play someone like a 5-back, it's a specialist system. It's got specialist positions and there's less variety in the middle. I think there's obviously bigger demand on your wing backs, bigger demand on your centre backs. It's just a really difficult situation to get right. And I think for a lot of people, it feels like, oh, you're playing 5 defenders, got to be defensive. I don't think it has to be defensive whatsoever, so long as you've got the right players for it. And well, we very simply don't. So, as we say, whatever he picks over these next couple of weeks, whilst we've been on the international break, and then going into the next game on Sunday, we'll have to wait and see. But that's going to be telling, I think.
Yeah, and I think before we move on to Patterson and his interview, one thing I'm going to ask you, it's the last little closer on Dele Alli, is Richarlison's. I wouldn't say it's Richarlison's problem. I want to know your opinion on this with the offsides. Do you think someone like Dele Alli could help in the sense that it just seems like our players, I don't know if they don't trust Richarlison or they don't trust themselves with that final ball, but when Richarlison's shoulder to shoulder, when they realistically should be playing the ball and trusting him to run onto it, instead they're waiting until they've seen that he's beaten the man to play it, and then it ends up being offside. Do you think someone like Dele Alli, with his ability to pick a pass, you look up, he's had multiple seasons where he's been in and around 10 assists. Do you think someone like him could help in that ability to pick that final pass? And it may, kind of unleash Richarlison.
Yeah, massively. I mean, the team is just bereft of creativity and quality with the ball. I think Alan's decent enough on the ball, but obviously plays further down the pitch. Tomorrow Gray's decent on the ball, but hasn't got that killer ball in him. And quite a similar story of Anthony Gordon, a bit more direct as well, rather than one of our more central players. But I said when I was speaking last time on here about how it frustrates me the fact that people say we had the same team last year or Ancelotti got us to a certain position with the same players. When we've lost James, we've lost Sigurdsson, and we've lost Luca Dean. And whilst none of those players are perfect, and whilst you could pick holes in all of them, some more than others, but they're 3 creative players. We saw with, for example, the Derby game when Richarlison was put through by James Rodriguez with a great pass. I can't see anyone in this team other than maybe Dele Alli playing that ball. So it's going to be interesting, but we definitely need that creativity, and you're going to take a risk somewhere. So we'll have to see where it comes from.
Yeah, I know you've been watching Paul and you've just joined back. What do you think about this whole Dele Alli thing then? Do you agree that it is more of a Frank thing? Do you think Dele needs to work harder? What's your overall opinion on it?
Can you hear me to start with?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Dele Alli, I don't know. When we signed him, I thought that was just a typical Mashiri-era signing all over again. Just someone sticking their oar in who doesn't know what they're doing. Because Dele Alli's a talented player, but Dele Alli hasn't been the player that everyone remembers for a while now. He fell off dramatically at Tottenham under multiple managers. It's not like you can say, oh, just, he didn't get along with Mourinho and he didn't have Mourinho's trust and that's why it went bad. He was really out of form even under the latter stages of Pochettino's reign. And then he was really not in Mourinho's best Tottenham team, was he? And now Conte obviously didn't want to know either. And Daniel Levy's the type of fella who would charge you for a glass of water. And to give us the deal he gave us just to get Dele Alli off the books, that set me alarm bells off massively. So Dele Alli, whether he's going to be here long term, as in 2-3 years time, I don't think so personally. I mean, I'd like to be proven wrong. I'd like him to, find a bit of form and find his place in the squad and kind of make a position in the 11 his own, and we see the best of him again. But do I think Dele Alli belongs in Everton's best 11 when everyone's fully fit? No, to be perfectly honest. And that's ridiculous considering how poor we've been for months now and the way the season's been going. But if Everton are the team that we hope that they're capable of being, when everyone's fully fit and if everyone gets a long run of games, then I wouldn't put Dele Alli in the team over Richarlison. When Richarlison's on form, I wouldn't put Dele Alli in the team over Calvert-Lewin I wouldn't put Dele Alli in the team over even Decore as sort of ball carrying midfielder who looks to arrive late in the box, which I think is Decore's best role. It's hard to see where Dele Alli fits in unless we're just going to go for a complete style change, which I don't think Frank's really shown any signs that we are going to do a complete style change. I mean, it's different from what it was under Benitez. I mean, Benitez didn't just threw every man behind the ball, didn't he, and played negative and didn't like any creativity. But unless we're just going to go for possession, which, look, going back to the Martinez era, then I don't really see where Dele would fit into the team. But so the Dele Alli signing, I'm still scratching my head about it even now, months later after we've signed him. He's come on and he's not really done much in all his cameos. And I've been actually really disappointed with him in a couple of those cameos he's had off the bench. There's been a few times I've looked at him and I thought, you were just a waste of substitution there. So I just don't know. I'm not a believer in Dele Alli as things stand, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so moving on to another player who's hasn't really been in Frank's books at all. Nathan Patterson just played, I believe it was a friendly against, was it Poland? Or something like Austria?
He had a good hour for Scotland. I haven't seen the game, but I've seen all the reports saying that he was man of the match.
Yeah, and it's, I think the one that circled around Twitter was his run. Beats a man, runs. Yeah, I mean, he's in a lot of space, but in the end, you still look at even some Everton players and go, they'd probably be scared to run into that space that he ran into. And, beats another one or two and then gets into the shot. The shot's poor, but in the end, he's a defender. I don't think I was expecting him to fire it into the top corner. And his exact quote here, I think, is, do I hope the Everton manager was watching? I hope everyone was watching. I always want people to watch me. It's all about playing for me. That's all I want to do. With Seamus Coleman being a bit iffy, I don't think he's been as bad as everyone makes out, but I don't also think he's been brilliant. I don't think he's been undroppable. With John Joe Kenny being very much the same, had a really good start, and then I think it's got worse and worse since then. With his magnum opus of pure crap being that, was it the yellow and red against, who was it against?
Wolves, I think.
Wolves, that's the one. Do you think Nathan Patterson deserves to be given a chance now?
Well, he can't be doing any worse than what John Joe Kenny's been doing. And Seamus, as you said, Seamus splits opinion nowadays. I'm firmly in the camp that I think Seamus Coleman's best days are well gone, and the club should have looked to replace him well before now. Patterson, from what I've seen of him, he can hit a ball into the box, can't he? And we haven't really had a fullback at right back who's been able to do that for a while. Coleman's never been able to cross a ball. John Joe Kenny, his delivery is a bit better, but he hasn't really got anything else. He's not particularly quick. He's not particularly strong. He's not particularly good at linking up with other players. He's not particularly good at doing the overlapping runs. You'd hope that Patterson can maybe do all of that, and we'll never know until he actually gets some first team minutes. And the only game he's played for us so far against Boreham Wood, that first half, which was diabolical. I thought he was the only player who came off the pitch for any credit, and I thought he was very unlucky to come off that game. It was clear what Frank needed to do, the tactical tweak that needed to be made in that cup game, and he did make it, but I thought he took the wrong player off. I thought it should have been John Joe Kenny or Townsend who made way in that game, not Nathan Patterson. So, yeah, I'd like to see Patterson given a goal between now and the end of the season, because he's here for the long term, isn't he? You'd like to think he may be settled in by now, because he's still a young lad. He's probably left home in Glasgow. Don't know if he's ever lived on his own before, but he's certainly on his own now. It's south of the border in Liverpool. So maybe he just needed a bit of time to get his feet under him and kind of get things settled and find out where he was living and things like that. But I would like to just see him be able to focus on football now. If he's not going to be in the team, then I'd like to at least see him on the bench and maybe getting some minutes off the bench, because John Joe Kenny's not good enough and never going to be good enough. We've seen that. And Seamus Coleman, even if you don't think he's been as bad as some people make out he has been, the only way is down for Seamus Coleman. He's not suddenly going to become 28 again, is he? So I want to see Nathan Patterson, and I think the players who are getting minutes ahead of him don't deserve to be getting minutes at the moment in the team, no matter what position you want to put them in.
Yeah, James, what do you think?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think I'm massively desperate to see a change in the team somewhere. And I think the thing with Patterson as well, he's a tall lad, he's athletic, he's got something in that the squad just doesn't have. We are a very sluggish, crab-esque squad, and he make a big difference there. I think it is difficult when Callum and Paul coming into the team and knowing that obviously the right back is obviously our captain, but I think he's a bit lucky in the fact that he's not like an undroppable captain, as we said. It's not like it's like James Ward-Prowse or someone's going to start every game for you. It's someone who's on the way down. The fans will completely understand. I'm sure Seamus Coleman himself would understand that he wasn't getting as many minutes. And I say he's just got to do something that's brave and something that's going to change something, because we're getting beat and we're not playing well enough in a lot of games. I think Seamus Coleman's had a couple of games where he's been fine. He's been all right. He made a great tackle against Newcastle, which went on to set up the goal, and that kind of summed up a pretty decent game for him. But that's kind of his peak now. That's his level, and we paid a lot of money for Patterson, and we're going to need to see him, I think, at some point. And again, it'd be better if we were in mid-table. I'm sure he would take more risk with it, but I think the entire fan base now, I think, is pretty much on board with the fact that we need to make a change. We finally signed the right back, and we're not utilising. I don't understand. I would even say I would have John Joe Kenny at right back over Seamus Coleman, but Nathan Patterson, he paid a lot of money for him. He's looked good in his cameo. He's played well for Scotland. Had some good minutes for Rangers. He's played in Europe, played internationally. I think he's more than ready to step up now. And as I say, the whole Dele Alli situation can be really telling to see how much he plays over the next sort of 2 or 3 games, because I think that will kind of decide what goes on for the rest of the season. Is he going to take risks, or is he going to be safe and go with the Kennys and the Colemans rather than the Mikolenkos, the Pattersons, the Delis? We'll have to wait and see.
We just need wide players who are going to get in behind defences, and that's what I think Patterson is going to will try and do if he's put in the team. Coleman hasn't got the legs anymore. Mikolenko, when he plays on the left, that's not his game. It's not what we brought him in for. I feel sorry for that guy. We've been playing him wing back in pretty much every game Mikolenko's featured in, and Mikolenko is never a wing back, and probably never thought he was going to be asked to play wing back when he came to the club. John Joe Kenny is getting put here, there, and everywhere. One week he's at right back, next week he's at right centre back, next week he's at left back, next week he's at wing back. John Joe Kenny, as much as he's been getting criticised, he hasn't had a proper run in a team where he's been able to just focus on one thing from week to week. It feels like his head must be battered, because one week he's getting told he's got to be in this part of the pitch, next week he's in a completely different role. So we just need, and other wingers we've got, Richarlison one week is getting played through the centre as well. Next week he's on the wing. We just need to get players in positions and just let them settle for a while instead of just moving them around. To get why Frank's doing it. Frank's just trying to roll the dice and kind of muddle everything up and hope that he stumbles onto something. But a lot of these players, even if you don't think they're particularly great, a lot of them are seasoned pros by now, and they've been good at various times in their career for other teams. Just let them and just put them in a position and keep them there, and just see what happens with it. If it's going to be John Joe Kenny and not Patterson, then just put John Joe Kenny right back for 5, 6, 7 consecutive games and see how he gets on. Let Mikolenko play at left back. Don't stick him out far on the wing in a 3 at centre back formation with 2 wing backs, and he plays a 5 when they're out of possession and a 3 when they're in possession. No, just let them play the positions that they've been schooled and what they've come up in the youth teams playing. Mikolenko's a left back. John Joe Kenny's a traditional right back. Patterson's a traditional right back. Coleman is now a traditional right back if he's anything. Just let them play in the positions that they know and that they're confident that they can perform in.
Yeah, I think you look at it, and I think that easiest example is a game that literally took place yesterday, I think, is if you give one of Everton's wingers good service, were an easy example, Tino Livramento's cross to Anthony Gordon in the under-21s game. I think that kind of epitomises that if you give our players, especially someone like Gordon, good service, they can score goals. And I think, that goal, I just wanted to mention it because I thought it was fantastic from Gordon, fantastic from Livramento. What could happen if our players actually get good service? Because I think that's the biggest problem in our attack, is that the service is absolute crap.
Yeah, that's why Calvert-Lewin's not been scoring. Get service into the 6-yard box, and Calvert-Lewin will do what he was doing last season, which is getting a fair amount of goals. Calvert-Lewin's just basically gone back to being the Calvert-Lewin he was prior to Ancelotti, where he was an absolute workhorse. But the criticism of him was that he didn't get enough goals, and he wasn't even in goal-scoring positions most of the time. And that's just what he's gone back to being, because the team isn't playing to his strengths like we were last season under Carlo. If you're going to give Carlo Ancelotti credit for anything, it was discovering what Calvert-Lewin is fundamentally as a player, which is a poacher and someone you can throw it onto his head and he'll go up top. And there's not many centre halves who can beat him in a header. So I can't. It's been months since we've been looking to get balls just in and around the goal mouth. Can you remember the last time we put a ball into the box and someone just scores it with a one touch, with an headed goal, or a goal like Gordon's? Can anyone remember the last time we scored a goal like that, where someone just lumped it in and someone was there to meet it and just put it away?
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just we're lacking such huge dimensions in this team, and out wide's been a massive problem. But now I think even the winger position's in a decent shape with Gordon and with Gray, but then the fullbacks aren't there to back them up. And when we're playing, whether it be Godfrey or Kenny at left back, we are just one dimensional then, and then you go to the right and it's Gordon, who's been one of our, if not our best player this season, but then again he's backed up by Seamus Coleman. It's just not going to work, and he's limiting his options massively, especially when you go up against someone like Wolves who are going to spread the back five up a whole width of the pitch, and we just got no chance. He's limiting his options massively, I think, by the current fullback choice, because they're not complementing the better players we've got, because it's thin on the ground in terms of good players we've got in this team, and the best ones are probably the two wingers and a couple of the strikers.
Have you got something to say, Paul? I saw you unmute yourself.
No, I was just going to get a dig in saying, well, we know why the fullback situation's as bad as it is, because a big fat Spanish waiter came in and threw his ego around and forced one of probably our best centre back, our best fullback rather.
That sums it up really. Erwin's comment there sums it up really. It's just, it's a difficult season all around, but I think because I think we are getting to the end of what really has happened, because not much has happened really. I think, well, actually, the one thing I can think of is just to get the dig in here. Did you see that journalist who said they don't know how Pickford was still starting for England, and then I'm pretty sure he won man of the match?
I don't think. Maybe I speak for other people here. I don't give a shit. I don't watch England games. I don't care, honestly.
No, I don't watch friendlies. I was going to say, I'm not from Liverpool, so I usually watch the national team. But it is the thing where I couldn't care less about friendlies. But it was just, quite funny, because I don't remember what Everton account it was that said it, and I was like, surely she's not tweeted that when someone's put that.
I think it was someone for the Anfield Wrap, I think, which kind of sums it up. So that's a level of journalism. But I didn't see the game, but I seen a couple of the couple of the saves he made. Again, he's been one of our best players, and I said it last week, I'm sick to death of hearing people talk about Pickford, because he's been great for us for a year, 18 months, and obviously he's hated by the Newcastle fans and he's hated by Liverpool fans after what happened to Van Dijk, and I think it's going to go on forever whilst he's England #1 and whilst he's playing for us. So I don't really take much notice.
It's not something right about these England journalists. There's nothing to write about. There's nothing going on because we're in an international break. None of the City players or the Liverpool players or the managers have poked their head up and done anything. So there's nothing for them to make a story out of. So what do? They just fall back on the tried and trusted tactic of making a story out of nothing, especially when it involves an high-profile England player, and it just feels like it's Pickford's turn this week. So.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, and I think with Aaron Ramsdale being, the media darling that he is, and don't get me wrong, I do think Aaron Ramsdale's a fantastic goalkeeper. I do think he's really, proven a lot of people wrong, but at the same time, even if I wasn't an Everton fan, I think I'd be in the camp of why give up on someone who's never let you down.
Yeah, well, I said when I came on last week about they battered the England goalkeepers into submission, whether it's Foster, Carson, Robinson, David James, Robert Green. A few of them obviously aren't anywhere near Pickford level.
No, they battered them. No, why they battered them into submission? Because they didn't play for darling clubs. That's all it is. They don't like the fact that a player who plays for a club like little old Everton is keeping out a player who plays for a big club like Arsenal. In their mind, they don't like that. If you don't play for one of their Sky Darling teams, then you've got no right being in the start 11 for the England setup. You should consider yourself lucky if you get a call up and you make the 23-man squad. But don't for one think you can get in the start 11. If you don't play for City, Liverpool, United, Tottenham, or Chelsea, then as far as they're concerned, you're beneath playing for England.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? And I think, I'll use this example is on my podcast that I've just recently started, we talked about Crystal Palace and Southampton's influence on this England squad with 3 players each. Why should we be having to talk about that in the sense that, oh my God, look, mid-table teams are in the England squad. Look at that. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. And it's just this sort of idea of It is, because my thing is, I said this to someone, if we get relegated and Jordan Pickford moves to Tottenham, for example, something I could see happening, they might look to
You won't get stick ever again.
No, he won't. And then that'll be it. He's England's number one for the World Cup. And then they'll make it out to be a big deal. But it is. I don't think it helps that he plays for us as well, because I feel like they don't like us. And I just do think that's naturally what it is. I don't know why. I'm not an expert.
Calvert-Lewin was getting stick, wasn't he, before the Euros last summer in the warm-up games? I think there was something where he wants to take a penalty and Jordan Henderson took it off him. And all of a sudden, Calvert-Lewin was in the wrong because he had a bit of a, he had a bit of a moody face on when he had obviously he's a striker, he wanted to take the penalty, but basically they didn't. Yeah, Henderson went on to miss it, but apparently the Calvert-Lewin being a bit annoyed that he won a penalty and had it taken off him was sudden, and then Henderson missed it. It was suddenly Calvert-Lewin was a bad guy. They wouldn't care if that was an Arsenal player. If that was an Arsenal player or a Chelsea player, got the penalty taken off them, they'd be saying that Henderson was out of order. Why are you taking it off a striker who needs a goal, who needs confidence going into the tournament? But because it's Calvert-Lewin and he just plays for Everton, it's like, oh yeah, how dare you, little Everton player, think getting too big for your boots? How dare you think that you can be the main man for England?
Anything you want to add, James, before we?
No, I think that's pretty much right. And I think as well with the goalkeeping situation, you see a team further down the league and you think, oh, their keeper must be crap. But obviously we watched John Pickford all season and we know him and Gordon have probably been the furthest players from fault all season. So you got to watch your team to know what you're talking about. And I think they're never going to lay off Pickford whilst he's England's number one, and they're only going to be happy when he starts getting axed from squads because he's no longer good enough because he's been getting slated. But he must have rhino skin by now, Jordan Pickford. I know all footballers do, but he must be something different, I think.
Yeah. Owen puts here transfer rumours. And to be honest, Owen, I don't think anyone's putting transfer rumours out right now because we don't know what league we're going to be in next season. I think that's kind of the problem. I think for example, the only one I could tell you maybe is that Chilean lad, Brereton Diaz, is probably the only one I could tell you that might happen no matter what league we're in. Rabiot, but if we're in the Championship, he's not going to join, is he? And Rabiot's, he's one of the ones we're linked with every summer. He's the new Riquelme. Every summer, guess what, Everton? You're going to sign Adrian Rabiot. It happens every summer.
He's one of those players like Koulibaly's another one where it just feels like he gets linked with about 5 or 6 clubs every transfer window because his mum's his agent and apparently they're dead hard to deal with. And Juventus are just fed up with indulging them. So what's an easy story? Just invent some interest from a Premier League team that you know is going to be needing to spend some money. But if you think for 1 second that Rabiot is going to consider coming to Everton the state we're in, then I want whatever you're on.
Oh, I think he'd consider it, but I know why he'd consider it, and it's good old Farhad's bank account, which when we then end up paying him 150 grand a week, and then he flops. It's
he's got his faults as a player. As I said, his mum's an absolute head case, but I think Adrian Rabiot is, when he feels like it, a very, very, very good footballer. I think he can do better than Everton, who are scrapping for survival, personally.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, and I think at this point, I think it's almost impossible to believe any transfer rumor that comes out at this time. I think you start seeing the real ones around May and June time because that's when clubs are actually starting to get ready. I think, to be honest with you, everyone in and around Everton are more focused on survival at this point. Like even the scouts, I can imagine Frank's, instead of scouting players, he wants his scouts, as many of them as possible, giving opposition team reports so he knows them, hopefully anyway. Because right now, he's
go down. Half those scouts won't have a job next season because the staff will have to be put. It's just the reality of the situation, isn't it? When teams go down, they have to make cutbacks because they've got to save money.
That's it, exactly. But I think that is it. I think we've spoke about everything. I don't know if is there anything you two boys want to talk about before I end this off?
Not especially. Just I've enjoyed this weekend off from Everton, to be honest. The next game's West Ham away, isn't it? Obviously, I imagine we'll do some videos in the next couple of days and as a preview for those. But I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit crazy and I've overindulged this weekend, but I'm suddenly not feeling as dreadful about that game. I'm starting to maybe get a little glimmer of hope that maybe we can snatch something there.
Do you think this break in general might have been something that's good for everyone involved in the club, the fans, the manager, the players? Do you think it's something we might have needed?
Definitely. If Frank hasn't had every player in the training every single day, just drilling into them tactics and how to defend and how to just stop making these little individual mistakes, I'd be very, very worried. If Frank's the manager we think he is, then he'll have had everyone in first thing in the morning every single day, the ones who we can have in, because I know a couple of them are off on international duty, but every player who's not on international duty should have been in Finch Farm every single day of this break, practicing and leaving late.
Yeah. Well, that's where we'll leave it, hopefully, when we talk about the West Ham game. Hopefully, it's still optimistic and the pessimism of Everton hasn't slowly sunk in like it does. But thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe. Follow us all on Twitter. I can imagine all our Twitters are linked on the post. Share the video if you can. Put some comments in the comments to see if you agree and whatever. And we will all see you later.